Unfortunately, sometimes the adoption process is full of not so great stuff. So we're going to talk about adoption scams today and how to be sure that you avoid them if at all possible. Hi, I'm Stephanie A, and I'm the adoption lady, and this is all about adoption. We're going to talk about this today. I think one of the most important things I can say is not to go adoption alone. So I'm not saying you have to use an adoption agency for your adoption process, but even if you're self-networking, don't go it alone. Get support. There are support groups out there. And also courses on just teaching you how to self-network yourself. Because when you're self-networking, that's where you're most vulnerable for an adoption scam, because you are the one who will be screening expectant parents on your own. Whereas with an adoption agency, we do the screening of the expecting moms before they even get to an adoptive family. So usually you'll find that an adoption agency may catch things before you even have to worry about it. So it's important to know, especially if you're going to be self-networking, that you understand the adoption scams and how to avoid them. I think it's really important when you are taking calls or taking messages from expecting moms that you view them as being legit. Don't go in thinking, oh, is this an adoption scammer? Go in with the honest belief that this is truly someone who is legitimate and is really wanting to place their child for adoption. So go in with the idea of the glass half full rather than half empty. So when communicating with a potential expecting mom, be sure that you listen more than you talk. You want to listen to what she has to say, and just know that if they come off really, I wouldn't say articulate, but if they come across as really confident and are saying all the right things, when something seems too good to be true, it just might be too good to be true. So chances are this expecting mom, if they are legit, don't really know what they're doing. They are just as scared as you are, and they may fumble around with their communication and their words. And so just know that just listen, especially when you're starting the process, and just listen for little cues that will tell you in your heart, in your gut, whether she is, sincere and honest. Don't be too concerned if you don't hear back from the expecting mom too quickly. Sometimes, they're taking their first step and they're reaching out and they're trying to find a family for their child. And then they may just have to take a step back and just reevaluate and just really feel, is this the right thing for me to do? And so you may find that they may drop off, and that's perfectly normal. So just don't be too concerned if you don't hear back from her for a while. So a red flag might be someone who asks for money. That's the first thing they ask for. That's something they're overly concerned about, is money, and in constant crisis and constantly needing money. So those are some red flags when you have someone who, normally what you do is your adoption professional will help the expecting mom look through what her expenses are and what's legally allowed for her to request, and they'll help set up a budget, and then this budget is managed by the adoption professional. So usually someone who is scamming someone will have constant crises and constantly need money. And it will really go unnoticed because it's just a little bit here. It's just $25 here. It's just $10 here. It's just $75 here. And before you know it, you've spent $500. And so it's these little crises here and there, and the demanding of the money, that is a huge red flag. So watch someone who is overly concerned about getting financial help. Now, there are what are called emotional scammers. Not everybody is looking who is a scammer is looking for money. A lot of times there are actually famous people who are notoriously for scamming emotionally families. And I won't name any names, but just know that if you've got someone who is just constantly communicating with you, communication, and it's just constantly texting you continuously throughout the day, and they're very sweet, and then all of a sudden they get kind of mean in their conversations, and then they apologize and they're sweet again. And just be careful and just keep an eye out for that kind of behavior. You will want to always just kind of keep your radar open for red flags and just kind of looking for things that just don't feel right in your gut. Trust your gut when you're going through this situation. Trust what doesn't feel right. Don't write it off. You're going to feel desperate. There are times when honestly you'll feel desperate, and you'll feel like if you don't do what she asks, that she's going to walk away. And chances are, if she's going to walk away, she's going to walk away. It doesn't matter whether you've done something she asked or not if she's a scammer. So just kind of go with your gut feeling and just look for things that are concerning to you. Watch for her story changing, details changing. For example, she tells you she's in Texas and that she has a child, and then a week later or 3 communications later, she's now in New Jersey, and she accuses you of not listening to her and knowing that she had moved. And so just watch for the story changing, because there are scammers out there who forget the stories that they've told one family to the next, and sometimes they start jumbling those stories up. And my big thing, this is my number one advice, is that get the expecting mom in front of an adoption professional as soon as possible. And if she refuses to meet with the adoption professional because she just wants to keep this private, she just wants to let this be between you guys, she wants to help you keep the costs down on the adoption, that is a huge red flag. Get her in front of the adoption professionals. If she is a legitimate expecting mom, she will happily accept the assistance of the adoption professional that you hired. So that is my number one advice, is get her the services that she needs and deserves as quickly as possible. So I hope to see you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe so you can never miss one of our videos. Thanks again. Bye.